It's recording.
No,
Ernie, no pressure, but we're all listening.
That's okay.
Make it interesting.
No, they were looking for.
You want to hear it?
Gabriella, Rivka,
Yeah.
say hi.
I want to say hi. Rivka!
Hi.
Hi, how are you? You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Ernie.
Hi, Ernie.
Oh, there's Johnny.
Hi, Rivka.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
So nice to see you.
Is Rachel here too?
No.
Okay. So we're on Eruvin Nun Ches 58. We're going to start the Gemara. Menon Emili. Because the Mishnah said that we measure the tchumim with a rope that's 50 amas long. So the Gemara wants to know, where do they get that? When they measured the courtyard of the Mishkan, measure it with a rope of 50 amma. Afraid the Gemara, we needed that to be told that you had to increase the size of the courtyard by 50 by 50. We learned both dinim. The din that you have to use a rope and the din that you have to increase the size of the azar. Then we said the rope has to be 50 amas long, lo pachos v'lo yoser. Not less, not more. Tana, we learned in the Mishnah, lo pachos b'nei shemarbe. We don't want it to be too small. Because what will happen is you'll tighten it up, you'll try to pull it, and you'll end up measuring longer. And v'lo yoser b'nei shemamayit. If it's too long, you will sort of fold it up because it's too long, and you'll end up measuring too small. Ravasi ein moridin el b'chevel shel afsakima. The rope has to be made of afsakima. My afsakima, what is that? Rabbi Abba nargila. Well, what's nargila? My nargila. Rav Yaakov dikla dechad nevara. There's like it's like a rope-like material that hangs underneath a palm tree, and they would make rope out of this. Ikidiyami, other people say my afsakima. Rababa Omer nargila. And Rabbi Yaakov Amar dikla dechad nevara. It's this rope that is made from the hair of a palm tree. Tanya, Amar ben Chananya. Ein lecha sheyafel nida yoter mishal shoshel barzel. The best measuring tool is iron chains because it doesn't shrink. You can't overstretch it. Avoman maaser shari amratoria v'yado chevel mida. It says in Yishcheskel that you have to use a rope. Freit the Gemara v'aksiv v'yada ish knei mida. Sometimes you can use a reed to measure. Hahutan Rav Yosef shlosha chavolim heim. No, hahula tare. That means the reeds were used to measure gates, which are not too long. So you didn't need to use a rope. Tari Rav Yosef, shlosha chavolim heim. There are three types of ropes. Shel magag, shel neitzer, shel pishtan. Shel magag lapara is this kind of rope is used for a paradisnan. Kifasua b'chevel magag. They would tie the paraduma up with this chevel, which is made out of palm tree. No, it's made out of reeds, and it's not bekabel tuma, so that's why it was used for paraduma. Shal netzarim lasota, rope of netzer is made out of palms, and they would tie a woman's her breasts so that they won't fall when she drinks the sota water. It's not v'achar kach maybe chevla mitzvah v'koshel malam midadeha. Shel pishton lemedida, and rope made out of flax was used by the surveyors to measure the tchum. Then the Mishnah said, "Hayamoded v'higia." If they went to a valley, they would span the valley. Midetani choser lemidos. Now let's say they get to a valley and it's more than 50 amas. So they would find an area that was a gap that was less, and they would stretch it so they could measure 50 amas, and then they would continue measuring in the straight line when they went back. That's what it means, choser lemidoso. Michlal demeno yochel avlio. If you can't span it, you can go to a narrower pace, and then sofa can get midoso, and then you go back to the line of sight that you were before to continue the straight line with choser. So the Gemara says, Tanina lahadaton rabbana. This is learned in a baraisa. You were measuring a straight line, you got to a valley. If you can span the valley, because it's less than 50 amas, mavlio. V'im lav, holech l'mokom shiach lavlio. You go to an area that's narrower, and you span it, and then go back to the straight line. V'tzofa v'chozer l'midas. Now, if it was a very deep valley, makdir v'ola makdir v'yored. So you have to measure, when you measured a slope, you took two people, the guy lower would measure from his chest, and the guy higher would measure from his foot, from his foot to his chest. And that's why it was like calculus. Everything was measured in a straight line. Higila koisel. If he reached a wall, you don't have to make a hole in the wall to pass the rope through. You can just estimate the thickness of the wall. There's another price that says, no, you make a hole in it. So it depends. If it's very easy, it's not that thick, and you can make a small little hole to see what the distance is, or even to do it in the other way, like we described with the measuring from foot to chest, you can do it. But if it was not easy to do, then you can just estimate it. The surveyors would use a plumb line, a piece of rope connected to lead weight, and they would see if it's a straight line without a slope. If it is, then you don't have to worry about the slope. But if it shows that there is a slope, then you have to measure the way we talked about measuring slopes. The Kama Oim Guy, how deep is a valley that you can span the valley? Rav Yosef, even up to Alpayim Amma, even 2,000 amas deep. If it's 100 amas deep, 50 wide, then you can span it. Which means you'd have to go measure, which you mean you'd lose out a lot of your tchum. You'd have to measure it, area by area. So it seems to be a kasha. So who domer kacherim? Even if the valley was 2,000 amas deep, you could still use a spanning technique. Other people learn Rav Yosef. Afilu yoser me'alpayim kiman. Who's the one who says that even more than 2,000 amas deep? Lo ketana kabev lo kacheri. So hasam shein chuta mishkos yorkinegel, but that's referring to when you drop the plumb line, it was not straight, and therefore you'd have to measure using the chest to foot mechanism. But if it was deep, doesn't make a difference. If it's a straight plumb line without a slope, you could span it. How is Amravimi Arba? It means if you see that the plumb line is Arba Amois away from the straight line, that's enough of a slope that you'd have to measure with line by line measuring. Arba. Higia lahar. What if you hit a mountain? Mavliyo v'chozr l'midaso. You span it, and then you go back straight line. That's only if the slope is 10 amas high within 4 amas. But let's say the mountain goes up 10 amas within 5, so then that's flat enough that moidadom medida yafa. Then you don't get the benefit of spanning. You got to measure it. The actual distance, which is gonna, if it's a hill, you're gonna waste a lot of tchum there. But that's how you have to do. Rav Huna braid Rav Nosson Masni Lekula that Amar Rav Loishan Bahar Mislak Asram Mitoch Chamesh. When can you span it? If it's 10 within 5. Of a Bahar Mislak Asram Mitoch Arba. If it's higher, so you can just estimate. Omdo v'holechlo. You don't have to measure. You just do it like a span through estimation. When doing these measurements, you can't leave the tchum. My time, Amrav Kahana, we are measuring distances of cities. If you go out of the tchum, people will think that this has to do with the tchum. How do you do this mechanism of like going through measuring a hill? Tachton keneged libo, elyon keneged margaloso. The one standing on the higher elevation measures the rope next to his foot. The one on the bottom measures it next to his chest. And that takes out the slope. Amar Abaye naktinon, ein mekadrin el bechevel shel arba amos. That kind of measurement, you would use a rope of 4 amos. So you didn't do longer measurements. You did not use that technique when you were measuring a corpse to the closest city to find out which city has to do the procedure of Egla Rufa, because that's Midaraisa. Then you have to actually measure the true yardage without this mechanism. Lo bari mikla. And the same thing when you're measuring the distances of an ari mikla, because these are measurements minat Torah, Mishnah. Ein moedidin element mumcha. You had to be an expert. You couldn't rely. Now, if you had to be George Washington, right, was a surveyor. He had expertise as a surveyor. You had to use an expert. If he measures and he gives you a longer measurement, show him l'makom shariba. You listen to him, even though in other places he made it less. He gave some kind of signs why he would think that you're allowed to measure in a longer way. Or you always go to the distance one, and you remove the shorter measurement. Then another halacha, afilu eved, afilu shivcha, nemanim lamer ad kan tchum Shabbos. You can ask an eved or a shivcha where the end of the tchum is. Normally, you don't accept edus from an eved or a shivcha, but regarding tchum Shabbos, it's only midrabanan we accept it. The whole purpose of tchum is lahakel. Shalom l'chacham is adav l'achmer lahakel. Okay, is there a shiur tomorrow with Svika?
I think so, but I didn't get anything.
Okay, so if there is a shiur, we will learn Daf Yomi at 9. And if there's no shiur, we'll learn at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Tomorrow 8?
It depends, Mario. If Tzvik has a shiur, we'll learn at 9.
Okay, so somebody will let me know, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
You think?
I get moed.
Good night. Good night.
Good morning.
No, it's silly.
Bye.